There are 19 or now 20 no votes for McCarthy. We don't really know what all of them want, to be honest, or if they even want anything other than chaos to hurt the perceived establishment candidate. As far as we know, there's no real plan to get the defectors on board. It's not even clear if McCarthy can turn to his good buddy Donald Trump for help. That, of course, being the man he debased himself in front of again and again and again and again and again and again, because despite endorsing McCarthy for Speaker, Trump now, shockingly, surprise, surprise, seems more than happy to throw him under the bus. Now that McCarthy has been outed as a historic loser, can you imagine what Donald Trump was thinking? He was watching this spectacle, with the ex-president refusing to stick by his endorsement of McCarthy in a brief interview with NBC News correspondent Garrett Haake. Quote, "When I asked directly if he was sticking by McCarthy, who did not clinch the gavel today after 3 floor votes, Trump told me, we'll see what happens," and it ended our conversation. You knew I was a snake when you took me in. So, Republicans are in full disarray. It's not hyperbole. Say this is a level of chaos and disorganization that is unprecedented to the modern era. It is simply the facts. There's no consensus pick to be Speaker. It's not even clear at this moment if McCarthy will keep his name in contention. Republicans have nominally controlled the House for less than 24 hours, and they have nothing to show for it. It has already devolved into historic levels of chaos. Sahil Kapoor, senior national political reporter for NBC News, has been tracking every moment of today's congressional drama. He joins me live from Capitol Hill. Sahil, you got to report on history today. Let's start with the latest. What's going on right now?
Chris, it's been a day of chaos and dysfunctionality on Capitol Hill. Certainly not the way Republicans had hoped to start the first day of their new House majority. As you mentioned, the House gavelled out after 3 failed votes for Speaker. The first time in a century the House has failed to elect a Speaker on the first ballot. They adjourned. They're going to be coming back tomorrow, and it is far from clear what happens next. The Kevin McCarthy strategy was to put up a show of force from this morning, starting with a 9:30 a.m. conference meeting that they had to demonstrate to these far-right rebels that the caucus is overwhelmingly behind Kevin McCarthy. Well, they did do that. 90% of the caucus is behind Kevin McCarthy. It turns out he needs 98% in these tiny wafer-thin margins, and he was not able to persuade 10% of the House Republican caucus to get behind him. They had also hoped that after the first showing, after the first ballot, the trends would move in his direction, that some of the rebels would see that there was no viable alternative, that they had to support Kevin McCarthy, and they would feel the pressure to do so. That, again, did not happen because these rebels don't care what Kevin McCarthy thinks. They don't care about, angering, upsetting Republican leadership. In fact, many of them have built their identities at home in their, safe red, ruby red districts at opposing Republican leadership, and they want this scalp. We saw today how badly they want this scalp. McCarthy's defections went from 19 to 20, and the path ahead is very rocky. This has become kind of a 4-dimensional Rubik's Cube for Kevin McCarthy, and it is unclear to me he can find a way out. I see a few possible ways this could go, 3 ways to be specific. They can return tomorrow at noon when the House gavels back in and just keep voting. Just keep doing more of this. It could be spinning their wheels and hope somebody breaks. At this point, I don't see either side with an incentive to break. The 10% is holding firm, and the 90% is furious at the 10%, understandably so, because they built something close to a consensus, which has generally in the past been enough to elect a Speaker. Remember, John Boehner in 2015 got elected Speaker with 25 defections. This is the hazard of narrow majorities. That's one path. The second thing is Kevin McCarthy could try to give these far-right rebels everything they want. Specifically, they want to keep him on a very tight leash here. They want to be able to make a motion to overthrow him whenever they please. They want him to commit to holding votes on bills that may not be able to pass. They even want commitments from him to pass those bills, even though he can't control some of the votes. It's very, very difficult, but he can try going down that road and maybe reduce the defections to 4, which is all he can afford. And the third option here is the least likely option, but it's the one card that moderates and mainstream Republicans have to play. They can cut a deal with Democrats. A group of them can go to maybe 10, 20 Democrats, as many as they need to overcome the rebels, and say, we're going to elect a more moderate Speaker, and that would really teach the far right a lesson because they would get a more liberal Speaker than the one they wanted. I have no reason to believe that that's going to happen, but that's where we are right now. No good choices, and Kevin McCarthy is hanging by a thread here.
That happened in the Pennsylvania State House today. It happened in a version of the Ohio State House today. We will see. Sahil Kapoor, thanks. That's great reporting.